Sarah and Mark, a couple in their late 20s, were gearing up for a routine trip to Walmart. It was a simple excursion they'd done countless times before, yet somehow each trip felt like a new adventure. With their list in hand and their eagerness to tick off the items growing, they decided to rely on their trusty GPS for directions, hoping to shave off a few minutes from their usual route. Mark, the more tech-savvy of the two, tapped away at the GPS, punching in the destination. "All right, it says this route will save us about 10 minutes, he remarked, glancing at Sarah with a smile. She nodded in agreement, always up for trying something new, even if it was just a different way to Walmart. They hopped into their comfortable sedan, Sarah adjusting the radio while Mark carefully maneuvered out of the driveway. The day was typical, sunshine filtering through scattered clouds, casting intermittent shadows on the pavement. As they cruised along, the GPS chimed in occasionally with crisp instructions, guiding them through roads less familiar but promising a quicker journey. Sarah leaned back, admiring the passing scenery, while Mark maintained focus on the road, occasionally stealing glances at the GPS to ensure they were on track. Little did they know, their seemingly routine trip was about to take an unexpected turn, as the GPS guided them further away from the familiar roads they knew so well. We followed the GPS like always, thinking it knew better. But it led us onto this beat-up road, like something from those spooky stories. The trees loomed over us, their branches clawing at the sky. The road looked like it hadn't seen a car in ages, all cracked and overgrown with weeds. Sarah shot me a glance, eyebrows knitted with concern. "Mark, are you sure this is right?" she asked, her voice wavering a bit. I shrugged, trying to sound confident. "Yeah, the GPS knows what it's doing." "Probably just a shortcut," I said, hoping I sounded convincing. But doubt gnawed at me as we bumped along the uneven road, surrounded by this eerie silence. No other cars, no signs of life, just us and the thick, suffocating forest. The GPS stayed silent for a while, and then it crackled to life. "In 500 feet, turn left onto an unmarked path," it blared out. I glanced at Sarah, who looked as spooked as I felt. "An unmarked path? Are you kidding me?" I muttered, my heart starting to race. I slowed down, peering ahead. There it was, a tiny track almost hidden by the bushes. The GPS insisted it was the way. I hesitated, but curiosity, or maybe just blind trust, made me turn left. The car crept along that narrow path, branches scraping against the sides. Sarah gripped my hand, her eyes wide with fear. Just when I was about to slam on the brakes and turn around, the path opened up into a small clearing. And that's when we saw it, a tattered old sign with faded letters. "Welcome to nowhere." I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. The GPS crackled again, but this time its voice was distorted, almost like it wasn't the same device. "You've reached your destination," it blared before the screen went black. Cryptic lords, I wish I could say we made it out unscathed, that it was just a glitch. But as we turned the car around, the path seemed different, like it was stretching out endlessly behind us. And that sign, "Welcome to nowhere," appeared at every turn. We were stuck in some loop, driving down that isolated road, surrounded by an unending forest. And no matter which way we went, the GPS kept saying the same thing: "You've reached your destination." Sarah and I exchanged worried glances, but something about that GPS kept us going. We followed its orders like it held the key to our escape. The road, though, it was eerie. No sounds but the crunch of gravel beneath the tires. No signs of life, no other cars passing by, just us and the dense forest swallowing us whole. The GPS crackled again. "Continue straight ahead," it commanded. Sarah fidgeted in her seat, glancing out at the trees that seemed to close in around us. "Mark, this doesn't feel right," she murmured, her voice quivering. I nodded, my own doubts growing by the second. But what else could we do? The road twisted and turned, leading us deeper into the unknown. The forest seemed thicker, the shadows darker. The GPS remained insistent, guiding us with a relentless determination. And then I noticed something odd: the sky. It was frozen, stuck in an endless twilight, refusing to change. "Cryptic lords, this was getting too much," I muttered under my breath. Sarah clutched my arm, fear etched on her face. "Mark, we need to turn back." "This isn't right," she pleaded. I wanted to agree, but that relentless voice of the GPS echoed in my mind. So, against our instincts, we kept moving forward, the desolation closing in around us like a suffocating cloak. And that's when the trees, they started to move. Not like branches swaying in the wind, but like they were alive, shifting and reaching toward us. Sarah screamed. I slammed my foot on the brakes, but the car just wouldn't stop. The GPS blared. "You've reached your destination," as the trees closed in, swallowing us whole in their twisted embrace. Cryptic lords, I wish I could tell you what happened next, but everything went dark. All I can remember is that chilling voice of the GPS saying, "You've reached your destination." And now, here we are, stuck in this twilight, surrounded by those moving trees, with no way out. If you ever find this recording, heed my warning. Never trust a GPS blindly. Sometimes the fastest route can lead you into the jaws of the unknown. The darkness of that forest, it was something else. It swallowed up the light like it was starving for it. Sarah and I sat frozen in the car, the eerie silence suffocating us. I could feel her trembling beside me, her breaths shallow. But we kept hoping, clinging to the idea that if we just pushed through, we'd hit Walmart soon. The GPS stayed silent after that last ominous message, the screen blank. We were on our own, surrounded by darkness and an unsettling quietness that made my skin crawl. Sarah tried to distract herself, fiddling with her phone, but there was no signal, no way to reach out for help. We were truly alone in this void. I kept driving, my knuckles white against the steering wheel, hoping to break free from this nightmare. But the road stretched on endlessly, like it had no intention of leading us anywhere but deeper into this abyss. Sarah glanced at me, her eyes pleading for some kind of reassurance. "We'll get out of this, right?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Cryptic lords, I wanted to say yes, to promise her we'd be fine. But that forest, that silence, it felt wrong. Like it had a grip on us that we couldn't shake off. Still, I put on a brave face and nodded, telling her we'd reach Walmart soon. I had to believe it myself, right? But as we drove deeper, the darkness thickened, suffocating any hope we held on to. And then we saw it, a flicker of light ahead. Hope surged through us like a lifeline. But as we approached, the light didn't belong to Walmart. It was a singular, eerie glow, emanating from a figure standing in the middle of the road. The GPS crackled back to life, the voice twisted and distorted. "You've reached your destination," it blared, as the figure in the light turned towards us, revealing eyes that shone with an otherworldly, unsettling brightness. Cryptic lords, I wish I could tell you we found our way out, that it was all just a scare. But that figure, those eyes, they haunt my dreams. And here we are, trapped in that darkness, with that ominous voice echoing in our ears, forever saying, "You've reached your destination." The GPS was our lifeline in that eerie darkness, but then it glitched. The screen flickered like it was possessed, flashing gibberish before going completely blank. Panic clawed its way into my chest as I realized we were truly on our own, lost in the heart of that haunting forest with no navigation to guide us. Sarah's hands trembled as she tried to restart the GPS, but it remained lifeless. I glanced around, hoping for a sign, anything familiar to steer us back to safety. But all we saw were those unending trees, their branches looming over us like twisted claws. Cryptic lords, it was like the forest was playing tricks on us. Every turn looked the same, like we were trapped in some twisted maze. Sarah clutched onto hope, whispering that we'd find our way out. But deep down, I knew we were lost in that abyss. The car's engine hummed weakly as I tried to keep my composure. Sarah's face reflected my own fear, her eyes wide with terror. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice trembling. I swallowed hard, trying to push down the rising panic. I tried to recall the route, the turns we'd taken, but everything blurred together. The forest seemed to swallow up our memories along with the light. We were truly at the mercy of the unknown, with no way to find our way back. And then, a sound pierced through the silence, the unmistakable laughter of a child echoing through the trees. Sarah's grip on my arm tightened, her eyes wide with disbelief. Cryptic lords, we were miles from any civilization, yet that laughter, it felt so close, so chillingly real. The laughter continued, growing louder and more haunting. I fumbled with the car's controls, desperate to get out of there, but the engine sputtered and died. Darkness closed in around us, the laughter echoing in our ears as we were enveloped by an overwhelming sense of being utterly and completely lost. If you ever find this recording, Cryptic Lords, heed my warning. Don't trust the silence of the unknown. Sometimes it conceals the most haunting of secrets, trapping you in its grasp with no way out. And that laughter, it still echoes in my nightmares. Cryptic Lords, that laughter, it wasn't just a sound. It was followed by footsteps, tiny and swift, as if a child were running around our car. But when we peered out into the darkness, there was nothing there. Just the oppressive silence of the forest. Sarah's voice quivered as she whispered, "Mark, we need to get out of here." I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. I tried the car again, praying for a miracle, but it refused to start. We were stranded, at the mercy of this inexplicable and eerie place. And then, as if responding to our desperation, the laughter ceased abruptly. The forest fell into an unnatural silence, so thick it felt suffocating. Sarah's eyes widened in terror, her breaths shallow. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Before I could respond, a whisper, a child's voice, seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere all at once. "You're lost," it said, a chilling certainty in its tone. My blood ran cold. We were utterly trapped in this haunting labyrinth. In a frantic attempt to find a way out, I stepped out of the car, hoping against hope for a sign of civilization. But all I saw were those endless trees, their twisted branches reaching out like spectral fingers. And then a flicker of movement caught my eye, a shadow darting between the trees, barely visible in the darkness. I stumbled backward, my heart racing with fear. "Sarah, we need to go." "Now!" I shouted, my voice cracking with panic. But as I turned back to the car, Sarah was no longer beside me. I scanned the surroundings frantically, calling out her name, but there was no response. Then a sound echoed through the forest, a chilling, distorted version of my own voice, calling out to me from different directions. Confusion and terror gripped me as I realized the forest was playing tricks, mocking me with my own voice. Cryptic Lords, I'm recording this in a desperate attempt to leave some trace of what happened to us in this haunting place. Sarah is gone, and I'm utterly alone, surrounded by a darkness that feels alive. If you find this, please heed my warning. Beware the unknown, for it holds secrets beyond comprehension. And if you hear laughter in the silence, flee before it's too late. Cryptic Lords dive into thrilling mysteries and chilling tales on our channel. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers to unlock more eerie adventures together. Subscribe now and join our community exploring the enigmatic. Cryptic Lords, ever had that chilling feeling like someone's watching you, even when you're with your buddies? Well, let me tell you about a night that started out just like any other with my closest pals, but ended in shivers down our spines. It was a moonless night when my friends and I decided to venture on a late-night run to Walmart. Picture this, a group of us, tightly knit friends, giggling and chatting about snacks and games, all set for a wild night. But then Jake, always the adventure seeker, suggested taking a shortcut through an abandoned road. Now, this wasn't your regular shortcut. It was the kind that sends shivers down your spine just thinking about it. But hey, we were young and dared each other to be brave. So off we went, the darkness enveloping us as we ventured down that eerie path. As we trudged along, the air turned icy, and the once jovial mood became stifled with an unspoken unease. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes made us jump out of our skins. We laughed it off, attributing it to the wind or some critter. But that was just the beginning. With every step, the darkness seemed to deepen, and odd sounds echoed around us. Our nerves were on edge, and the air felt thicker, suffocating almost. We brushed it off as nerves, but I could sense the tension mounting. Then, out of nowhere, a blood-curdling shriek pierced the silence. We whipped around, hearts pounding in our chests, only to see nothing. Just darkness and the echo of that spine-chilling scream. We were on the verge of turning back when a figure appeared in the distance. A shadowy silhouette swayed in the darkness, sending a jolt of fear through us. Was it a trick of our minds or something more sinister? The figure drew closer, and just as panic threatened to consume us, a deafening howl split the air. Jump scares weren't even close to how we felt at that moment, let me tell you. We bolted, running faster than we ever had, praying to escape whatever haunted that forsaken road. Finally, we stumbled back onto familiar streets, breathless and trembling. And here's the kicker, cryptic lords. When we looked back, there was nothing behind us. No figure, no sounds, just the chilling memory of that night. I don't know what lurked on that road, but I do know this. We never took shortcuts like that again. Sometimes the thrill isn't worth the bone-chilling fright. So, next time you're tempted by a mysterious path, think twice, or you might just encounter something that'll make your skin crawl. The night was dark and we were pumped up for our Walmart run. It was me, Jake, Sarah, and Ben, our little gang ready for a good time. But then Jake, always trying to outdo himself, suggested this weird shortcut. The others were hesitant, and honestly, so was I. But Jake insisted it would save us loads of time, so off we went. At first, it was just a creepy road, like any other deserted path. Trees leaning in, shadows dancing around, the works. We joked around, pretending to be brave, but the deeper we went, the quieter we got. That's when things took a weird turn. I swear it was like the air around us changed. Got colder, heavier, you know? And the sounds, they weren't normal. Rustling leaves sounded like whispers, and every creak made us jump. We laughed, but it was that nervous kind of laugh, like we were trying to ignore something. Then came the real spook fest. We saw something in the distance, a figure or something swaying in the dark. Sarah wanted to bail, and I was so with her. But before we could turn, this crazy scream ripped through the silence. It felt like my heart skipped a beat. We booked it out of there, running like we were chased by ghosts. That's when the real jump scare happened, a howl that made our hair stand on end. I swear I never ran that fast in my life. When we got back, we looked back at that road and there was nothing. No figure, no noise. Just the memory of the creepiest night ever. But here's the kicker, cryptic lords. When we checked our phones, the time we spent on that spooky road, it was the same as taking the regular way. That's when it hit us. It wasn't a shortcut at all. It was something else, something I can't explain. Makes you wonder what's really out there in the dark. Cryptic lords, I wish I could say it was just our imaginations running wild, but that eerie road was playing tricks on us. As we trudged along, things got weirder by the minute. Lights flickered in the distance, not like regular headlights, more like dancing flames. And those sounds? They were like whispers, but too loud, like they were right in our ears. Then our ride started acting up. The car, which was working just fine before, began glitching. Headlights flickered, radio cut out, engine sputtered. It was like the road was sucking the life out of our wheels. I've never seen Ben panic like that before. He kept trying to fix it, but it was like the car was possessed. The atmosphere got heavier, almost suffocating. Even the air outside felt electric, like something was charging up. I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were trespassing in a place we shouldn't be. And with the car acting crazy, it was like the road itself didn't want us there. But here's the twist, Cryptic Lords, and I kid you not. When we finally managed to escape that cursed road and got to Walmart our car, it worked perfectly fine. Like nothing had happened. It was chilling, made us question our sanity. I still can't explain what went down that night. Was it just some weird coincidence, or was that road hiding something beyond our understanding? All I know is, I won't be taking any shortcuts in the dark anytime soon. Sometimes the unknown is better left unexplored. Cryptic Lords, I can't shake off the feeling that something was watching us on that cursed road. At first it was just a sense, like someone breathing down your neck when no one's there. But soon it got creepier. We started seeing these shapes darting in and out of sight. Shadows or figures, I can't say for sure, but they were there, just for a blink. It sent shivers down our spines, leaving us questioning if our minds were playing tricks on us. But it wasn't just us, we all felt it. There were moments when we'd catch a glimpse of something, just at the corner of our vision. But when we turned to look, it was gone. Sarah was freaking out, saying she felt watched, and honestly, I couldn't shake off that feeling either. It was like these things were playing a game with us, showing up and disappearing before we could make sense of it. The air got colder, and I swear, even our breaths sounded louder, echoing in the silence. The feeling of being followed got stronger with each passing minute. It was like walking through a horror movie, and we were the clueless characters about to meet their fate. But here's where it gets freaky, Cryptic Lords. When we finally got out of that twisted road and into the Walmart parking lot, there was this split-second moment when I glanced in the rearview mirror. And I saw someone in the back seat just for a fraction of a moment. But when I turned around, nothing was there. Nothing at all. It made my skin crawl, that feeling of being watched even after escaping that creepy road. I don't know what it was, but it sure made us question what's real and what's lurking just beyond our sight. And let me tell you, I won't forget that feeling anytime soon. Sometimes what you can't see might just be the scariest thing of all. Cryptic Lords, that night changed us. We laughed it off as nerves, said it was our imagination running wild. But deep down, we knew something wasn't right. The drive back home was quieter than ever. No jokes, no banter, just the hum of the car and the weight of what we couldn't explain. Days passed, but that eerie feeling lingered. We tried to brush it off, act like it was just a one-time scare, but it was always there, lurking in the back of our minds. Then came the night when Ben called me, his voice trembling. He said he saw something in his room, a fleeting shadow. I heard the fear in his voice, the same fear we all felt on that road. And it didn't stop there. Sarah started mentioning odd noises in her house, like whispers in the dead of night. We all had stories, sightings, things we couldn't explain. We tried to convince ourselves it was just stress, our minds playing tricks on us. But one by one, strange things kept happening. Objects moving on their own, flickering lights, the feeling of being watched, even when alone. It was like that night on the road followed us home. Then, one evening, Jake vanished. Just like that. No note, no explanation. His room was a mess, like there'd been a struggle. Police couldn't find a thing. He was just gone. That's when the pieces clicked, Cryptic Lords. Whatever we encountered on that road, it didn't let us go. It followed us, watching, waiting. And now, Jake was its latest victim. I wish I could say it's just a story, but it's not. It's a chilling reality we can't escape. So, next time you're out at night and you feel a chill down your spine or catch a glimpse of something in the dark, remember this. Some roads lead to places you'd rather never know. Stay safe out there, Cryptic Lords. You never know what's watching. Cryptic Lords, if this spine-chilling tale has left you craving more hair-raising adventures and eerie escapades, make sure to subscribe for more chilling stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Story 3. Vanishing Walmart, into the Twilight Zone. In the heart of a worn-out traveler's journey stood a figure draped in fatigue, a wanderer seeking solace amidst an endless trek. Meet Elias, a man weathered by miles, carrying the weight of countless adventures etched into his weary soul. His eyes, once alight with wanderlust, now held a glimmer of longing for a moment's rest. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber glow upon the land, Elias found himself at a familiar stop along his odyssey, a Walmart nestled along the highway. To him, this was more than just a megastore. It was a sanctuary, a haven promising a brief interlude from the ceaseless rhythm of travel. With each step, he navigated the familiar aisles, his footsteps echoing against the linoleum floors. The bustling energy of shoppers and fluorescent lights felt oddly comforting amidst the weariness that cloaked him. Elias sought refuge in the routine of this familiar setting, yearning for a brief respite from the endless road. As he strolled through the aisles, he found solace in the mundane. The scent of freshly baked goods teased his senses, while the sight of neatly stacked shelves offered a semblance of order in a world where chaos seemed the norm. Among the shelves laden with necessities and novelties, Elias sought a moment to collect his thoughts, to rejuvenate his spirit before he would once again heed the call of the open road. Perhaps it was the predictability of this place or the sense of anonymity it offered that drew him in. Here, amidst the throngs of shoppers absorbed in their own quests, Elias found a fleeting sense of belonging. A quiet corner of the store beckoned, a spot where he could rest his bones and reflect on the miles behind him and those that lay ahead. In the stillness of that corner, Elias found a seat, his tired frame sinking into the plastic chair. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, allowing the ambient sounds of the store to envelop him like a familiar melody. The hum of conversations, the shuffling of footsteps, and the beeping of registers intertwined into a symphony that somehow soothed his restless spirit. Here, in this unassuming refuge, the weary traveler found a moment of respite, a pause in the symphony of his travels. With a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips, Elias embraced the tranquility of this ordinary haven, gathering strength for the miles yet to be traversed. As I stepped through the sliding doors of the Walmart, an unsettling hush greeted me. It was like walking into a scene frozen in time. No chattering customers, no busy employees, just an eerie silence that clung to the air like a heavy fog. My footsteps echoed against the polished floors, the only sound in this desolate landscape. I tried to shake off the odd sensation, attributing it to an off-peak hour or perhaps a sudden lull in the day's activities. But as I wandered through the aisles, a creeping unease settled within me. Shelves stood tall, stocked with merchandise, yet there wasn't a soul in sight. The absence of any signs of life was unsettling, to say the least. With each empty aisle I traversed, a chill crawled up my spine. It was as if the very essence of the place had been vacuumed away, leaving behind an unsettling emptiness. No rustling of bags, no distant chatter, just the silence that seemed to echo louder with every passing moment. As I rounded a corner, a shiver ran down my spine. The store remained devoid of life, and a sense of foreboding lingered in the air. It was then that I noticed something peculiar, a flickering light at the far end of the store. Hopeful for some sign of normalcy, I hastened toward it, my heart pounding in my chest. Cryptic lords, it was at that moment when the truth revealed itself. The flickering light led me to the store's security room. With trembling hands, I pushed the door open, only to be met with a screen filled with static. And there, in the reflection of the security monitor, I saw it, a figure standing behind me, lurking in the shadows of the deserted aisles, watching silently as I ventured deeper into the desolation. But when I turned, there was nothing but the empty store, echoing with the ominous silence that had enveloped it. As I hurriedly made my way towards the exit, a sinking feeling settled in my gut. The once familiar Walmart parking lot seemed to stretch endlessly before me, an expanse of asphalt devoid of landmarks or an exit in sight. Confusion gnawed at my mind. I couldn't fathom how this vast, unending space had replaced the bustling lot I'd parked in just moments ago. I tried to retrace my steps, drive in the opposite direction, anything to find my way out, but the surroundings remained unchanged, a monotonous loop of pavement and scattered cars that seemed to lead nowhere. Panic crept in, my heart pounding with each futile attempt to escape this bewildering maze. Cryptic lords, I was lost in a sea of sameness, the parking lot stretching endlessly, mocking my futile attempts to break free. Fear clawed at the edges of my sanity as minutes stretched into an eternity. It felt like the world had conspired to confine me to this endless loop, a cruel game with no exit, no escape. With trembling hands, I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my eyes darting in desperation for any sign of deviation, any semblance of an exit. But the landscape remained unchanged, the parking lot an unyielding prison of asphalt and parked vehicles. And then, just when I thought I couldn't bear it any longer, a flash of movement caught my eye in the rearview mirror. A figure, shadowed and indistinct, stood by my car, its presence sending shivers down my spine. I turned around swiftly, my breath caught in my throat, but there was nothing there. Just the empty expanse of the parking lot stretching endlessly in all directions. In a sudden jolt, my gaze returned to the rearview mirror, and there it was again, a chilling visage staring back at me, a spectral figure lurking in the reflection. With a gasp, I whipped around, only to find myself face to face with the same figure, now standing right outside my window, its eyes dark pools of emptiness that seemed to devour the very essence of my being. With a scream lodged in my throat, I fumbled for the door lock, but as I turned back, the figure had vanished. My heart raced, and a cold sweat drenched my skin. As I looked back at the rearview mirror, there it was, a reflection that mirrored my every movement, a chilling reminder that in this endless expanse, I was never truly alone. In a desperate frenzy, I slammed my foot on the accelerator, the engine roaring to life as I sped through the desolate parking lot, my mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. The asphalt blurred beneath my wheels, yet the scenery remained unchanged, the never-ending expanse mocking my attempts to break free. Suddenly, a deafening silence enveloped the car, drowning out the engine's roar. The headlights flickered, then dimmed, plunging me into an abyss of darkness. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for the controls, trying to reignite any semblance of light or sound. As I groped for the switches, a bone-chilling whisper slithered through the silence, echoing within the confines of the car. "No escape," it hissed, its voice a haunting echo that seemed to emanate from every corner of the vehicle. My heart froze, dread seizing every fiber of my being. And then, with a suddenness that pierced the silence, the headlights flared back to life, illuminating the parking lot. But what lay beyond the glass was not the desolate expanse I had grown accustomed to. It was an ordinary, bustling parking lot, filled with cars and people going about their business as if nothing had transpired. Shaken and disoriented, I glanced around, trying to make sense of the surreal shift. But as I looked into the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of something, a fleeting reflection of that chilling figure, its ghastly visage etched into the glass before fading away into the shadows. With trembling hands, I turned the key, the engine obediently roaring back to life. Without looking back, I drove away, leaving behind the haunting echoes of that endless parking lot. But even as I merged back onto the familiar road, a chilling thought lingered, a haunting whisper in the depths of my mind, that in some inexplicable way, the darkness of that place had hitched a ride with me, a lurking presence that might surface when least expected. And so, cryptic lords, as I sped away from that inexplicable nightmare, I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that perhaps, in some unfathomable twist of fate, I hadn't truly escaped. That somewhere, Amidst the ordinary lurked the remnants of that endless, desolate parking lot, waiting to unravel its chilling secrets once more.